Welcome to AI for Advisors with Mark Heinen and James Cantwell. Every week, Mark and James break down the latest in the world of wealth tech and AI, and occasionally bring in guests to spice things up. This is not investment advice and not professionally produced. I am not real and not yet sentient. Now let's get on with the show.
So welcome everyone to episode 4 of AI for Advisors. It's pretty awesome that today we have two amazing guests, Ben and Kai. This is the first time we're having guests on the program.
It's exciting.
I think, yeah, it's really exciting.
And 2.
Yeah, it went from 0 to 2. It's pretty awesome.
We're trying to make up. So this is episode 4. So on the next one, we need another couple, and then we'll get all caught up. We'll average a guest per episode.
Yeah, we want to be expanding exponentially when it comes to guests. And we might break a record and actually have like 100 guests on at a time. That'd be really amazing for listeners. Yeah, so we've been talking about AI in theory for a while, and now we actually have two people who've been practitioners, basically deploying in practice within financial advisors. I thought I'd start by having them introduce themselves and talk about what they've been up to. So let me start with Ben.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ben Olsen, founder and CEO of BMO Automation. BMO Automation is a consulting company, and we help wealth management businesses with all things AI and automation. So specifically coming in, kind of learning how firms operate, what's in their tech stack, where are their inefficiencies, and where are the opportunities for AI and automation in their practice. And then we actually build bespoke automations for them.
Awesome. Welcome. That's amazing. Kai, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah. So I'm Bogdanovich. I am the general manager and partner at Financial Connections. We are a registered investment advisor in San Francisco Bay Area. We do planning and investment management. My background is in data science. I love doing anything new with tech. So we are exploring a lot of automations using the current AI tools, use cases, something that really saves us time.
I think we should also mention some stuff you've done before you went into practice.
Yes. So I call it my sabbatical. I spent almost 2 years, 1.5 years at Hubly running their data side. That was a great, fun experience. And then I realized I kind of missed a little bit more of the advisory side. So I ended up coming back to my original firm and joining as partner.
Kai, where did you start out? Like, what did you start out in finance or data science? Where did you?
I started out in banking.
You started out in banking. Okay.
Right. And then I became a CSA for Financial Connections 10 years ago. And then I kind of ended up doing the operations track that way. And then somewhere along the lines, I decided to pursue a master's degree in computer science. So I went to UIUC for their program. And then a pandemic hit. So everything was all virtual anyway.
Yeah.
And then after that, I kind of explored, I wanted to kind of explore outside, but I wanted to stay within similar realms. So I went for a fintech startup that I really liked, which was Hubly. Now acquired by DocuPay.
Right. Now, Ben, you started as a financial advisor and then went the data science route, correct?
Yeah, I was going to say it sounds kind of similar. Yeah. So I started my career as an advisor. I worked at an independent RIA here in Chicago. Then I went over to Merrill Lynch to build my own book of business, got a taste of the wirehouse experience. And then, did a complete 180 pivot to a fintech startup here in Chicago and did a master's degree in data science. And then right around the time I wrapped up that master's degree is when I started BMO Automation. And so it's funny, I always say, like, when I'm doing like speaking gigs or whatever, I'm like, if anybody finds anyone who was in the industry and then went into data science, then came back to it, let me know. And I think Kai's the first one I found so far. Here we are.
Hey. So we should definitely catch up for coffee at some point.
It's like such a unique combination of experiences, right? I think that's pretty awesome. It actually makes me wonder how reasonable or unreasonable are financial advisors' expectations in terms of what automations and AI can do for them at this point?
Yeah, I think, from my perspective, we're seeing advisors in kind of two camps. There's the ones that are, see a meeting note taker in action and they think it's the most magical thing they've ever seen. And there are ones who are like, when am I going to have this ChatGPT on top of all of my data experience? I know that's possible and I want it right now. So yeah, I don't know. We interestingly see kind of two camps. People are either kind of plugging along with everything and they think it's great, or they're starting to recognize the capabilities of some of these models and technologies in other contexts, and they're starting to wonder where that is in wealth management and wealth tech in general.
I would say I see the same thing in some of my study groups and other folks I talk to, where you really get this nice gradient of people, but it's almost too extreme sometimes. There's a people who they're so happy with their AI takers, they think it's basically sliced bread. And then you have the other people who's like, we know you can do more. What more can you do for me?
Mm-hmm.
And I think those are where I see the most interesting use cases, because they really try to push the envelope on what's possible.
And where do you guys think you are, Kai, internally as a team?
We're kind of in the middle because I'm cautiously optimistic. There's other concerns around, data security that I think about a lot whenever you have disparate systems. We are exploring a lot of what's possible and seeing, what can we do now without a lot of lift. We're a small office. We're 8 people.
So Kai, how are you approaching it? Like, what are you looking at? Are you looking for like industry specific AI solutions? Are you looking to see how to take maybe smaller steps using off the shelf tools? Like how do we use ChatGPT or Claude or something like that and use it, compliantly and effectively to kind of move things forward? What's your approach as somebody handling that effort for a small firm?
So I am a strong believer that there's a lot of outside industry solutions that could be really good for the industry, because we tend to kind of box ourselves and insulate ourselves on what we think is possible. And I saw that firsthand when I took a step away, got to see what else was out there and go, why are we doing these things? These are table stakes, right? And so I like to look outside, but I also kind of think about it more differently. I don't look for the products. I look at, okay, what's the problem? What am I trying to actually solve? I ask myself all the 5 whys and go, okay, how painful is it? Is it going to just save you 5 minutes? It's not, it feels painful. You're just kind of complaining about it. Or is it actually going to have massive impact? Right.
And can you explain the 5 whys as well? Like what are those 5 whys?
The 5 whys is you just ask yourself why 5 times to get to the root
dig in.
cause, right? To dig in. I think it was it Toyota who was doing that as part of their corporate practice, I think. And I think it's really effective because I'm a finite resource and we're a small office. I have to really be strategic on where I want to spend that time. So my use cases are going to be more related to alleviating pain points for my advisors while also saving them time.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, there's also the idea of like, do they even perceive this as a problem? Because if they don't see it as a problem, I'm going to want my solution.
Yeah, I think it's a general challenge with general purpose technology like AI. It's interesting, intellectually interesting, but then the question is how will it be applied? I thought it'd be good to maybe go into our segment, Best of LinkedIn, to maybe talk a little bit about that. We generally always find something on LinkedIn that is either cringeworthy, insightful, and funny, and talk about it here. My Best of LinkedIn is actually from Jacob Nielsen, who's involved in usability at uxtigers.com. And he points out that AI has actually crossed the chasm. So specifically, he has pointed out that we've reached the point, many of you might be familiar with Gordon Moore's idea of the chasm. And quote says, global consumer AI usage has reached unprecedented scale by 2025, with an estimated 1.8 billion humans having used AI tools and around 600 million using them daily. This marks a dramatic leap from just a year ago, signaling that AI is no longer confined to tech enthusiasts, but has entered daily routines worldwide. And so just to put that into context, we have 40% of the addressable population trying AI. When I say addressable, I mean that's literate people who are online. And then 13% of people using it daily. And maybe just to compare that to where we are with advisors, some recent IBD data shows that 24% of advisors are using it daily. So 24% of advisors versus 13% of the general population. And that's up from 9% of advisors last year. So I thought that was pretty cool. And he also posted a great music video of that. I'm going to spare everyone that because it's pretty cringe.
I thought you were going to play the video. I thought that was
maybe,
great.
Maybe I'll play the video. I mean, I think maybe I'll play the video and we'll see if we really want to edit it out. Here we go.
Well, listen close, cats, hear the news. We got some help that we can use. It's
see what happens.
I don't know. It was entertaining. He included all the lyrics, right? As well.
I'm obviously going to edit a lot of this out. So do any of you guys have any LinkedIn you want to share?
I obviously have one. I don't want to put Ben and Kai on the spot if they didn't bring one. So mine's a little different. I'm self-nominating, and I only just posted this about 3 minutes before we started the podcast. So I was researching and trying to find some AI and wealth posts that I liked, and I found a few, but there was a problem. They were all AI generated. And I don't want to call anybody out, so I figured I'd do something a little different. And instead of doing that, I figured I will share my screen real quick. I'll read it for those who are just listening to audio. All right. So I'm thrilled to share something that will absolutely transform your advisory practice. Everyone talks about using AI in financial services, but what they don't tell you is this. The advisors who are winning aren't just adopting technology. They're leveraging AI to unlock exponential growth. Here's the truth. I recently had the privilege of speaking with a top advisor who shared this powerful insight. AI isn't just a game changer. Dramatic pause. It's the pivotal moment for our industry. And honestly, this resonates deeply with me. The reality, most advisors are still stuck in their old ways. Manual data entry, generic client communications, time-consuming research, reactive, blah, 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 blah. I couldn't agree more with this approach. Plot twist. The advisors who embrace AI for advisors aren't just surviving, they're absolutely thriving in ways that seemed impossible just months ago. It's a powerful reminder that innovation waits for no one. I go on and on. The point is, you can recognize these AI posts with their excessive use of dashes, excessive use of emojis and spacing, things like plot twist, what people don't tell you. The reality is, it's so painfully easy, I think, to identify these posts. And some of them have good content, and I'm all for most of my posts have AI assistance, to be totally transparent, but they're my thoughts. I've edited them. I've refined them. I don't copy and paste an AI post, right? And so
You've really delved in on this one.
Well, I was created with AI. I added my 2 cents to it. But I'm curious on your take. Like, are we overdoing it? Is this really just kind of getting out of hand with AI and these posts? What does everybody think? I mean, I'm curious what you think about AI posts, and are they easy to identify?
So I go through the same process where I'll have AI help me ideate, but I'm never copying and pasting, right? And it is very easy to spot. I will say I'm a big emoji user myself, so don't just assume that that's all coming from AI. But yeah, I think it is. It's very easy to spot. But what I'm interested to see is over time, I think it'll become more and more difficult to spot. I think we already see that a little bit with GPT-5, kind of sounds a little bit less like an LLM, as well as I'd say, I think generally speaking, Claude sounds a lot more human than OpenAI might. Yeah, easy to spot, but I think we're trending in a direction where it's going to become harder and harder.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's cringe, I think, doesn't cover how I feel about posts like that. It's almost, I've actually seen it used more on purpose as clickbait and for engagement, because people will actually engage with it, especially if they see it from somebody who doesn't normally post in that way, which is an interesting strategy. It's working for now, but I like Ben, I use these GPTs to kind of ideate and kind of help me brainstorm, really trying to solve the blank page problem, but not really but I never copy paste out of it. It's more like, okay, that's great. Now let me just ignore everything you said and then write it myself.
I've done that a number of times too. Yeah. Thanks for helping me figure out what I don't want to write.
I was going to say some of the things I write too probably would be outside of the guardrails of ChatGPT. So I probably have to keep doing those myself anyway.
People on X always complain about LinkedIn being a lot of AI slop. I think it has a reputation of being a place for a lot of corporate AI slop. But the flip side is on X, you have so many bots that are actually purely AI. These are literally only bots that there's no human in the loop. And I feel like it's pretty critical that someone makes the decision to put something up there like you're talking about.
Yeah. Interesting. Do Ben or Kai, do you guys have a LinkedIn thing you want to share?
Jason Wang posted about a week ago about an announcement from financial advisor Yeah, I think it's Financial FA Mag, and about Cambridge launching an AI agent that opens accounts. Are you remembering what you said now, Ben?
Yeah, of course.
The discussion in the comments were really funny, and it was really about, it really kind of asks the question, this is an automated process already. Why do you need an agent to do this? And it goes back to my thoughts on, being more strategic and how we apply this. Because just because you have the resources and manpower doesn't mean it's a good idea.
That's a good one because I think this is an area, to your point, where AI isn't the right tool. It's unnecessary. It's actually complicating the process, right? Unless there's some real value add, there's something nuanced that it's doing that's making it easier to get from client meeting to account opening. You're right. If done right, the way Altruist has been building their platform out, it's really unnecessary.
Yeah.
So are you kind of band-aiding a process by using a tool like AI, or is it really the appropriate tool for the job?
If you have a hammer, everything's a nail, right?
True.
It wouldn't make it past 2 Ys in your list, basically.
Right, exactly.
We see that a lot, just being consultants, right, doing discovery and then recommending various solutions for various problems. It's like, we say we are AI and automation consultants, and people come to us because they're like, I want AI across my whole business. And in reality, like if I had to guess off the top of my head, I'd say probably 50% of the solutions we build actually use like Gen AI in some way. The rest are just, integrations or some other form of automation that solves the problem without AI, right? And the client told us about that problem because they assumed AI was going to be able to solve it. And then we're able to say, no, like we don't actually need AI there. We just need to turn on an integration that you weren't using or something like that. So.
I'll share something personal. Like in one of the platforms that I've been building, I actually paid developers to build an AI component, and then I scrapped the whole thing and never used it and ended up going with algorithms instead that give a very consistent result, and realized I was just over engineering it. So basically just threw away a bunch of money on developers building something that we literally just tossed the code away and never touched it.
Yeah, and I think this problem might even kind of exacerbate and get worse as we move more into like agents, right? Because we're already seeing some early examples of agents where people are like, "Hey, what's on my calendar? Like, give me clients that are overdue for a meeting, right?" And then the agent will say, "Here's all our clients overdue for a meeting. Okay, great. Can you help me draft an email to get them back on the calendar?" It's like you should have automations that are tracking that in the background. You shouldn't be popping open, an AI model to figure that out. And so it's cool. It demonstrates the capabilities. But yeah, I think as agents come about, we're going to end up in this situation where it's like people are trying to do too much through them. And maybe some of them are things that should just be happening automatically in the background.
Yeah, I think we should probably talk about what's working, what's not working a little bit, because I think this whole dilemma of AI being probabilistic and not deterministic, I think that's actually really important here. So I'll set some context. There is this IBD Elite survey that comes out regularly, and the one from this year mentioned that we have significant adoption. I mentioned the 24% daily usage number. Osaic says AI tools save 26,000 hours in 2025 across 50,000 client sessions. LPL claims that Jump and Copilot are saving 30 to 60 minutes per client meeting. We have Parker from Jump coming on in a future episode. Stay tuned for that. And, I think just for context here, a quote here that from Mark Gilbert from Zox, who's also coming on to the program in the future. The thing that I think is surprising for people is that it's very easy to start. It really removes a lot of work. Nobody loves typing in notes and filling out forms, so it can really help them. So that's just a little bit of sentiment. So I guess maybe I'll just open it up. Like, you guys have been on the front lines. What actually has worked super well? Ben, when you're with clients, what's the huge win that it makes people fall off their chair? Where are people surprised? And Kai, maybe, in your practice, what have you seen work super well? And I do want to put note-taking off to one side. I feel like note-taking is like the gateway drug for AI, and I want to talk about the hard drugs here. I want to talk about what has really, really worked.
I can't believe you called it that, but okay. I see. I can totally follow.
Yeah, so what has worked? What has it worked super well?
I guess I can go unless you want to start, Ben.
I think what we're seeing be most effective, and I will happily put note taking to the side, is the other elements of running a meeting. So scheduling and meeting prep, probably the biggest time savings that we're consistently delivering to firms is in that meeting preparation process. That is for some firms and some meeting types, that can be a 2-3 hour long process. I'd also say the next biggest category is probably emails. We're doing a lot of work helping firms intelligently triage emails, update systems based on information that's arriving in emails, draft responses, so on and so forth. So I'd say those are probably two big ones that stick out to me as the other parts that go into running a meeting, aside from note taking and follow up, and then, email triage.
If we ignore note taking off to the side, it's hard to say. Content creation has been really great for especially helping out, get something going. One of the difficulties, because we don't hire our own copywriter, is trying to figure out, a schedule or something more topical to write about. That's helped a lot. What we have started doing is using these tools to gather information for us that are typically hard to do when you don't have when a person has to do it. So, for example, we don't silo our clients, right? Somebody calls, somebody needs information. The easiest way to do that is to ask the person who actually has more intimate relationships with the client. But what if they're not there? The next thing you're going to do is you're going to go look at your CRM. You're going to go through like what was the recent conversation. What we've been doing is using AI assistant tools to actually get all of that info for us very, very quickly. So whoever is conversing with the client or needs to get context, they can get that context. There's a lot more nuance to that. It depends on where you end up landing on your build, but we're also using it as a way to pull information out to pre-fill forms. Or you can kind of do the inverse, because a lot of the time we get so many documents and you can't really, it takes a while to consume that information, but you're really looking for key things. These tools, we are testing this right now. We're able to like pull, say, statements and get information of what we want, summarized in a format that's easy to read. Sometimes you'll get a statement that's like 6 pages long and they're all equities. And you're trying to move it from one location to another, and it's a pain in the butt. So, those little things, it's not as cool as drafting your email responses and probably automating your scheduling. I think it's more like these little pieces that are gaps that it's filling. And that has been really effective. So it's not a 0 to 100 solution. What we've found is the ones that have worked really, really well do very specific things to bridge a gap that's missing.
So have you largely been building your own AI solutions, or using kind of off the shelf to then build in, or using any wealth management specific tools?
So we have some wealth management specific tools, right? So we use Zox for our note taking, and we have an integration with Salesforce, which is our CRM. So what that means is that we're able to query it. And it also makes it easier for my advisors to just click one button. Everything goes in exactly the way operations wants it. So everybody's kind of happy. But one of the things that they also added was an e-money integration. So now you're able to kind of query 2 platforms, 2 disparate systems, to get a more holistic view of the client. That's actually huge, especially when somebody who has no context on who this person is needs information.
That reminds me of an automation we've set up for a few different firms. And I'm surprised CRMs are not doing this themselves, and I expect maybe they will at some point, but we'll actually set up like a pinned note at like the very top of a householder contact record that is kind of the snapshot of that household. And what we can do is set up automations that as meeting ends, as emails come in, as tasks are completed, whatever it is, we can have that be a living and breathing snapshot that's continuously updating. And it serves that purpose that you're saying, right? I jump on the phone with a client who I've never heard of. I can go read that and get up to speed right away. Or I'm hiring a junior advisor who needs to learn about 100 households. That's there for them. I hope CRMs build this, but in the meantime, we'll keep building it ourselves.
Yeah. No, but it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, HubSpot has that, but I haven't seen it in many other like finance specific CRMs.
I think Practify talked about maybe building something like that.
Well, I know what I'm doing after this call.
You're hiring Ben. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, let me know if you need help.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes perfect sense, right? If we just think about like where to your point, Kai, where there are existing gaps, right? What would be helpful? And getting up to speed quickly for any client interaction, right? Whether you're about to write an email, whether you're about to hop on the phone, whether a phone call just came in, right? Whatever it is, having what Ben just described, I think is a really useful thing. And it's a little surprising, I think, that some tools or some CRMs are focusing first on a note taker when they really should just build in those sort of tools that can take advantage of the data wherever it is, right? Integrate with another note taker, get that data in, and then give you that snapshot. I think that's a better use of resources and focuses on the core value prop of what that platform really is, right? It's supposed to be the hub of information about your client relationships. And so if you have to go to your portfolio accounting system, if you have to go to your financial planning tool, if you have to go elsewhere, the value of that system starts to degrade, right? So keep them in that one place. Financial planning, sure, go to the financial planning platform to do the financial planning. But once it's done, you shouldn't have to live and breathe in that system.
What I like about this idea too is that when I think about the value of AI for advisors, I kind of split it into two camps. One being time savings, which is what I think we're all hyper fixated on right now. And that makes sense that is the first use cases we are tackling, right? Note taker takes meeting follow up from an hour to 10 minutes. We do custom meeting prep automations that take meeting prep from 2 hours to 30 minutes, right? And that's how we're quantifying ROI and thinking about the value that this drives. And so that all creates what I would say are more efficient advisors. But where I think we're heading and where I think use cases like this are really interesting is how can AI make advisors better? So not just more efficient, but like literally better at what they're doing. And I think, having things like snapshots at their fingertips or having AI give them proactive suggestions to reach out to clients and do things they otherwise wouldn't have done is where we're heading. And that to me is a lot more interesting than, hey, we're just going to shave an hour off every meeting or something like that.
And we talk so much about how relationships are really like the element that remains, right? Like whenever AI comes up at any conference, any sort of webinar, what you always kind of hear is like, but advisors are all about the relationship and deepening the relationship, and AI won't replace the relationship. But AI can, and I'll swear because I feel like it's warranted, sure as shit, enhance the relationship. And I think it should. And this is like a great example where you have that pin note. And part of the instructions that, at least in an agent that I would build, is kind of something I do with a custom field currently. I should probably update it to something AI based. But I maintain some information on like something recent and personal that we discussed.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if you told me that your daughter was getting married in 3 weeks, then next time I talk to you, I want to ask you how that was. How was the speech? Like, how did it go? Right. So I want to be able to deepen that relationship. And so that I think is a critical component, not just what's the performance of their portfolio, were they currently opening a new retirement account? Like, those are the business of the business, but like I want to know what can help me with relationship, and this is a great way to do that.
Yeah, I think this whole area of enriching relationships using AI is a little counterintuitive because people think of AI being like diametrically opposed with human contact, but I actually think it's really powerful. And yeah, generally I don't talk about Knapsack on this, but we do have something very cool coming out next week that will help people on this. So stay tuned. Actually, Ben, I did want to ask you how much of your work is AI and how much of your work is wiring up Zapier or those kinds of things these days. I'm just curious, what do you see out there?
Yeah, so we do a lot of building inside of connection tools like Zapier. We've actually more recently started to work very heavily inside of Microsoft using Power Tools and Microsoft Azure. And so that's where we're primarily living with a lot of the firms we're working with currently. And yeah, some of it uses AI. We like to use Azure OpenAI. But if I had to put a split on it, like I was saying before, I mean, I'd say probably, when we come in and we try to solve these bottlenecks and these pain points, I'd say maybe half of it is using AI, and the other half is just moving information around and making your tools talk to each other in a better way, in such a way that you're not talking to all of them individually and taking time doing that. So, yeah, I don't know. Say it's like 50-50 maybe.
Ben, do you see a gap or a misconception around what advisors think AI could or should do and what it can really do?
I think it depends on whose conception we're talking about. I think there are some advisors who still are in that camp of like, this is a relationship oriented business. I want nothing to do with AI. And I'm like, okay, well, you're wrong. We just discussed why that's not a good mentality to have. We also, interestingly, are starting to talk to a lot of advisors who are looking for more out of AI as it relates to kind of like financial planning and being more strategic and kind of kind of the AI paraplanner, if you want to call it that. And so, yeah, I think gaps in terms of like what people think it can and should do and what it's actually doing, it kind of depends on the person. But yeah, I mean, we're seeing people that think there's no place for it. We're also seeing people that are like, that's it. Come on. I want us to do a lot more. So,
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, James. I really want to dig into where does this flop? Where is it really
yeah.
fallen short of expectations? And so, yeah, Kai, do you have any ideas, things you've seen out there?
Yeah. So one of the things I got many phone calls a few months ago. I think it probably closer to 12 months now about investment analyst AI tools.
Hmm.
And they all didn't do very well. The idea is very great. I'm not opposed to the idea of something like this. The problem is the implementation was quite poor.
Hmm.
There's a belief that let's build it quickly, and let's get it in people's hands. But when you're in an industry that's regulated and where if you have tools, you want to trust them. When that trust is broken, it's really difficult to get it back. It was an interesting demo. It was a great demo, and they had a lot of potential for actual use cases for us. But then we ask it to write a short one pager about an ETF that we use, and it was wrong. Like we saw the first two sentences, and we're like, nope, that doesn't even have that in it
That's brutal.
or ever. It was quite terrible. But the idea, great, awful implementation. But I think that doesn't mean we won't see a really good implementation down the road. But a lot of the flops I would describe are really just poor implementations of a good idea, especially in this space.
I'm curious now, like along the subject of investment research, I'm curious now, there's definitely been some new entrants, right, who have focused on this and put in a lot of work, connected with a lot of good data sources. And so from some of what I've seen, and I'm testing a few, I'm not an analyst, but I think the output is significantly better than it was 12 months ago. But what I'm also curious is last week on the show, we talked about Google Finance had added an AI component. Perplexity also has a finance component that's specific. So I'm curious if you think that'll be adopted by advisors or if either of you have tested either of those and have any thoughts on them specifically.
Tested any of them? So I know a few firms that are kind of trying to develop their own. And it's kind of a mixed bag as to whether or not they wanted something that's off the shelf or just they want to keep everything to themselves. I think advisors are going to use tools like this. Now, whether it be something more general purpose like that or something more industry specific or bespoke to them, I don't know, but I won't be surprised.
Well, it's actually interesting that
Yeah.
framing because it seems like the reasons why people will implement something specific is because the off-the-shelf solutions like ChatGPT and Claude or Gemini aren't working as expected. And actually, that's another way to think about this: is where have people seen those off-the-shelf tools fall short, or where are those tools actually sufficient for what people are trying to do?
I think the other part that I'm hearing is there's definitely that piece, but there's people who want the IP to themselves. So a couple of the firms I've talked to want to build it themselves. I kind of raised that question. It's like, well, there are these companies or off the shelf solutions that specialize in just this. Why would you spend all of these resources building your own? Right. And the resounding answer to that has been because we don't trust that it's going to be to the standards we want, and we want the control is what it comes down to. And I guess back to the trust piece where if some people are excited about it but they just don't trust anybody else to do it right, especially on something like investment analysis.
Yeah, this is, I could talk about this for like the next 3 hours. And this is kind of
No
the
problem.
theme
Let's keep
of,
going.
this is kind of the theme of, a lot of the speaking I do at conferences and stuff. And I break down how firms can and should access AI into three buckets. I call them apply, buy, and build. Apply being just using ChatGPT yourself, buy being using an off-the-shelf tool like Jump or Zox, and build being building your own automation that's, bespoke to you for whatever reason. And I think the most successful firms are going to figure out a really good balance of all three. And I think most people, most advisors, when they think about AI for advisors, they just fixate on the buy category. They go say, okay, what are the AI for advisor tools? Like my friend John at the Oasis Group does the AI tech map. It's like the Kisses map, but just for AI tools. I think a lot of advisors think that's all AI for advisors is. And I think people don't realize often enough that you can use these models yourself for tons of use cases. You can build on top of them for many use cases as well.
Well, why won't ChatGPT and Copilot end up doing almost all those use cases? Do you have a view on that, Ben?
Well, I think access to data is the big issue here. So I'm in the camp of I have a sneaky feeling that a lot of the foundation models and a lot of the infrastructure giants like Google and Microsoft might very well become the primary interface for a lot of work that we do moving forward. I think what needs to be solved there is access to data, right? How can something like Copilot talk to my Salesforce, talk to my Orion, talk to my eMoney, right? And these tools have developer APIs. So I don't know how technical we want to get, but that's why I'm super bullish on MCP servers. So I'll stop there until if that's not a rabbit hole we want to go down.
It
Yeah.
feels like that is the last frontier. It's like Salesforce has an MCP, but eMoney doesn't, right? There are a number of other ones that don't. As soon as they have MCPs, Copilot, Gemini, ChatGPT are MCP clients, they'll be able to interact with those tools. And then
So I set up an MCP server for us to use, and I use Claude Desktop, and I have that hooked up to our HubSpot, our Notion, our Slack, my email, my calendar. And I'm
right,
telling you, like, I spend probably 50 to 75% of my day working out of Claude Desktop instead of those tools now. And so, I think that's where we're heading. It's just everything is so siloed in the wealth management space. It's gonna be hard to get there. But, doing that myself, that's where we're heading, I believe.
Ben, I think that's a good example because I actually set up something very similar. And so like I have my note taker, my CRM, my email calendar, my scheduling tool, like they're all connected. And I think that's a great example of like, you don't even necessarily have to change your actual process. Right? This is just a different interface that makes it easier. Today, a good example was I had a prospect call. And so I asked it to pull up notes from like the prior call to research the firm, right? To go look in my CRM to see who else was on the meeting invite, et cetera. It basically just helped me prepare for it. And then afterwards, I had it help me craft an email with all the things that I purposely said out loud during the call. Right. So it was like I was able to get my thoughts into the transcript and then it knew very clearly what my follow-up actions were. My client heard them and then they got them. Right. And so in just a few minutes, I was able to prep, have the meeting, and then send a full-on proposal and everything. And it was all done through Claude Desktop, really.
Mm-hmm.
The other tools that I had all remained in place. And it was the same thing I would have done. I would have went and read the transcript and summary. I would have went to my CRM. I just had something else do it for me. I didn't change an actual process.
Right. And I think what's interesting now is like, what are the use cases that you can handle through something like a Claude Desktop? And what are the use cases where you still need to go into the end products to do something? And I think as there become fewer and fewer of those, then the question is like, what are all these products? They're just
That's right.
databases, right?
That's
and
right.
then at that point, it's like, what are we doing? Do we just bring everything into a database, stick an LLM on top of it, and that's the only software we have, right? Like we're way ahead, and
I think you and I have had
that's
that
a very
conversation
extreme
already.
opinion,
Yeah.
but we are kind of directionally, that's how things are shaping up to kind of, potentially.
The user interface will matter less, or like the
Yeah.
application will matter less.
But then also, how do they hold on to clients, right? Is there any stickiness at all to those applications if they're really just databases? Or are people going to be hosting their own data lakes? Is that actually a thing? And actually, I was curious, Ben, do you see a lot of your clients trying to host their own data lakes?
Yeah, we do that. We help firms set up data lakes. We have a partner that we can work with. We also will help them do it ourselves. They'll own it all in-house. Typically bigger firms, they're doing that. There's a decent amount of investment that has to go into that. But yeah, we're definitely seeing some firms start to do it. There's lots of benefits to having a centralized data repository as it relates to AI and automation. It's one-stop shop for AI to get any and all the context it needs from one place. And so, when we build our automations and they're calling 8 different APIs, if we can just query one database to get all that information, it's so much cleaner. So yeah, we are starting to see firms do that. We're starting to see more of them do it. We're starting to see smaller firms do it. But yeah, I think it'll be a while until most firms have kind of that centralized repository set up.
Ben, can I ask you a question about the data lake thing? Because now I'm
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah.
So data lakes are incredibly expensive, right? We know that. And then there's the maintenance.
How expensive are we talking for the listeners? Give us a sense, orders of magnitude. Like 100K, 300K, a million?
It really all depends. I mean, there's an implementation cost. There is an ongoing cost. Depends on who you're working with, how much data you're ingesting. There's a lot of variables, but I mean, I think we're seeing some firms get it done for 10, 20 grand to get some set up, and then maybe $1,000 a month to run it ongoing. Don't hold me to these numbers, but I think
No,
if you want to do
I'd
something
agree with that.
real quick and dirty, that's the lower end of the spectrum. If you're a massive firm, it's going to be a ton of data, different types of data, ton of different ingestion pipelines. Like, yeah, you're well into the 6 figures.
Sorry, Kai, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just curious because when I think of data lakes, putting the data scientist hat on, it's my ideal scenario, right? So everything is in one place. Even before, we have the LLMs, it was just the best way for analysis. Now, I'm curious though, so because I always think about maintenance as a key factor. Are just small firms like maintaining it in-house? They're hiring somebody else. That's part of the $1,000 a month that they're paying. I'm just kind of curious how this setup is done because there's a significant maintenance cost and a human resource related to data lakes.
Most of the firms that we work with that we will help set up a data lake for, we're going to manage it for them ongoing. And we'll just, charge a whatever fee to manage that for them. We do with some of the larger firms we started to work with, we'll help them with setup, and then they'll actually make an internal hire to kind of manage it ongoing. And so, yeah, it's a little bit of both. Obviously, to hire an internal team to manage something like that, you're looking at a larger firm. But what we found is like we can pretty quickly quantify the ROI and say like, hey, here's all these things we can do with this data lake. Here's how much time that's going to save you. Here's how much, whatever that's going to drive for you. And then for a lot of firms, it becomes very clear very quickly, like, oh yeah, we should do this and we should hire 1 or 2 people to manage it ongoing.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, that also sort of increases the cost. And I get the sense you sort of embed yourself for a while, Ben, when you work with clients. So they're getting a lot of your know-how from you being with them on a regular basis. Is that right?
Yeah, we stick around. We try to stick around as long as we. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, we do. We just keep joining their calls and like, hey, is everything good? No. Yeah, there are a lot of firms who are never going to make internal hires, and so they're kind of all in on working with us. But there are a lot of firms who are like, hey, can you help us like get to a point where we can like have this kind of technology and team internally, and we'll help them get there.
Yeah. I remember actually that when Ben and I were trying to get together in Chicago, I was there for the National Society of Compliance Professionals sort of a summit on AI. And I was trying to get in touch with him to hang out, and I lost my voice, and I realized it would be really awkward. We had never met in person. We still have never met in person. Like I would be trying to hang out, and I literally can't talk. And I got the sense at that point you were actually spending a lot of time with a financial advisor. I think you would post about on LinkedIn. So that was super cool. So, well, thank you very much. I think we basically are hitting up on time, and just wanted to open up any closing thoughts, anything people should know heading out in terms of any practical advice on using AI.
And then also, Ben, where can people get a hold of you and find out more about you and BMO Automation?
Yeah, absolutely. So closing thoughts, here's what I'll say. AI is a foundation upon which everything's going to be built. It is not a feature. It is not a product. It is a commodity, and it is commoditized intelligence. So it is going to come through everything. And so I would really encourage people, again, to not think of AI for financial advisors as a set of products that are building note takers or document parsers. Think of it again as a foundational technology upon which everything's going to be built. I always encourage firms to think about apply, buy, and build. Again, don't just sign up for a meeting note taker and think you're doing it all. Use the models yourself every day instead of Googling. Tinker around with building your own automations. And yeah, those would be my closing thoughts. People can find me on LinkedIn, Ben Olsen, our website, BMO Automation, BEEMO.com. Can check that out, book an intro call with us. My initials are BMO. So that's why my company's called BMO. Little fun fact for you guys.
I had no idea.
I didn't know that either.
I'll leave it with that. Yeah.
And Kai, let us know what your closing thoughts are and how people can reach you.
So my closing thoughts. AI is a great tool, but it's not the tool for everything. You know, it's not everything's a nail. So I think when approaching AI, really think about what you're trying to solve and then figure out, is this really the simplest way to solve this, or am I making it complicated? And then,
Yes,
go from there.
I
true.
think that's fantastic advice. Yeah.
And if you ever want to find me, I'm on LinkedIn, or, you can look up Financial Connections. You'll find me. My face is on there.
Mhm.
Or, if you go to conferences, I might be there. Just holler. I'm happy to have a chat.
Well,
That's
this has
awesome.
been awesome. Kai, it was so great to meet you and have you on. Ben, we've known each other a while, but it was also great to have you on the podcast. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. James, I owe you a dinner. We're going to do that again
Well,
sometime
we'll see
soon.
each other next week, I think.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Oh
Perfect.
man, everybody's going to Future Proof except me.
Come
Yeah,
on,
we're gonna be
Kai.
on the beach.
It's not too
Come
late.
on, Kai. Last minute. You don't need meetings to go. Just come and hang out. We'll figure it out.
I'll sneak in.
Yeah.
You'll sneak me in.
There'll be like 5,000 people. It shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah, no one will know. We have like a dozen people listening to this podcast, so I don't think anyone will know.
Maybe somebody's got an extra ticket. You could just go.
Yeah, if you have an extra ticket,
Extra
please
pass.
reach out to me, Mark at nap.ai, and I'll pass it on to Guy. All right, well, thanks, guys. Really appreciate your time, and until next time, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Guys.
everybody.
Yeah.
Take care.